Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Before we start this evening's scheduled council meeting, we do have a public hearing on two ordinances that were read into first reading at the last council meeting. These are going to be ordinances 1166 and 1167. So again, before we start the regularly scheduled council meeting, we're going to have a public hearing on those two ordinances. The first public hearing is going to be ordinance 1166. It's concerning approving the renewal of a lease agreement between the city and Go Havre de Grace LLC. This was an ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the annotated code of Maryland, sections 33, 34, and 36 of the Havre de Grace City Charter, to approve renewal of a lease between the city and Go Havre de Grace LLC for use of the city's right-of-way. Is there anybody here in the audience this evening who came here to speak on ordinance 1166? Any comments from the council members? Okay. Without any comments from the public or from the council, I will now close public hearing on ordinance 1166. The time is now 7:03. The second public hearing will be on ordinance 1167 concerning amending chapter 205 zoning related to accessory dwelling units. It's an ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the annotated code of Maryland, and sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter, to amend chapter 205 zoning. Is there any member of the audience here this evening to speak on ordinance 1167? Any comments from council members? Okay. Without any comments from the public or the council, I will now close public hearing on ordinance 1167. The time is now 7:04. See, that was easy. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the council meeting of the Havre de Grace Mayor City Council. The date is November 4th, 2024. The time is now 7:04 p.m. I'll call to order. Council President Ringsacker.
Here.
Councilmember Robertson. Absent. Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Boyer.
Here.
Councilmember Shenagas.
Here.
And Councilmember Boker.
Here.
Thank you very much. Could you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and opening prayer? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to now, at this point, item 4 of the agenda, welcome Pastor Peggy Norton of Encouraging Souls Ministry. It's an honor to have you join us this evening. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you.
A lot of people have asked already, where you been? Are you new? And yes, I am. I just joined the ministerium just this year, so that's why you see me here. May we go in prayer. Oh, wise and eternal Father, we come to you on today just to say thank you. Thank you for a great day and a good day. Father, we ask right now that you be with this session, be with the mayor and the city council members, oh God. Lord, we just ask that you would strengthen them, give them the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding to continue the great work that they're doing in this city. When their arms get tired and when they feel like they're just don't want to go on, Lord, build them up so that they can press on and continue to do great things for the people of this city. We don't know what tomorrow may bring, but what we do know, that you are God and God alone. This we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Norton, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you here again soon. Thank you. Please be seated. Before I move on to the rest of the meeting agenda, I wanted to bring attention to an event that happened this past Saturday night in the city of Havre de Grace. So before we get into this meeting, I'm sure many people have heard that a young man was lost his life Saturday evening. He was a Havre de Grace citizen, 14-year-old, went to Havre de Grace High School. He was a citizen of our city, and he was a warrior. And his name was Jaden Alexander Winchester. And although we don't know all the details, we know one thing, that he's no longer with us, and it's a tragedy. And I would like just to give a moment of silence for this young man at this council meeting who was a Havre de Grace citizen. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. We're going to move on with the agenda. We're going to go to item number 5, approval of the minutes. Item A, City Council meeting minutes from October 21st, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Jones, seconded by Councilmember Schnegas. City Council meeting minutes from October 21st, 2024. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion to approve carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Item number B, City Council closed session meeting minutes, October 21st, 2024. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from the Council President, second from Councilmember Jones.
Mr. Mayor, if I can read the votes into record. Number 1, acquisition of property for public purpose. Actions taken, motion by Councilmember Robertson with a second by Councilmember Jones to proceed with the negotiations to acquire property for a public purpose up to maximum amount. Motion carries 6-0. Potential litigation concerning a certain project. Action taken, motion by Council President with a second by Councilmember Boker for the city to proceed with negotiations first and then proceed with another vendor if negotiations are unsuccessful. Motion carries 5-1 with Councilmember Boyer voting against. And that is it, sir.
Thank you very much for reading that into the record, Council President. Any other questions or comments on the closed session meeting minutes? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion to approve closed session meeting minutes from October 21st, 2024 carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Okay, we're going to go to item number 6, comments from citizens. This is the part of this evening's agenda. If you have comments on the agenda, please raise your hand, be recognized. Or if you have any comments, any other kind of city business, now's the time to say it. Please raise your hand, be recognized. Okay, I see a couple. Sir, your hand was up first, and I'll get to you next. Welcome to the council meeting, sir. May I please have your name and record, name and address for the record?
Jonathan Green, 2000 Sea Level Road, Havre de Grace. Just real quick,
Welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to invite the city council up to tour the Legacy's property where we are proposing to put the park. And so I'll be sending you all an email, and you can just let me know, and we'll schedule something. So thank you.
I just want to make sure that you're aware that all of us can't be there at the same time, but we could probably coordinate with you if you don't mind doing it on 2 separate occasions.
Oh, I can do that.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. And, sir. Welcome. May we please have your name and address for the record?
Certainly. My name is John Tracy. I'm an attorney with Young, Conaway, Stargatt, and Taylor up in Wilmington, Delaware. I just wanted to introduce myself to you. I'm representing Harbor Shops Maryland 2 LLC, which is on the agenda later tonight, and then later on in the calendar for the annexation of the small piece of property on Route 40. I've been coordinating with Ms. Ishak with the required documents. I just wanted to note for the record that we are seeking a waiver from the escrow requirement because this is going to likely be a very inexpensive matter for town hours and efforts. And so we'd rather, pursuant to the reimbursement agreement, just kind of pay as we go in terms of reimbursing those things. But other than that, I know we'll be back for a public hearing later. Well, I believe we'll be back for a public hearing later, but just want to introduce myself, and if there are any questions now, certainly happy to answer.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you. Who else would like to address the council on an agenda item or any other matter of city business? Sir. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, senior staff. My name is Chip Place, 301 Cigar Loop.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm here tonight to speak about item 14A, the state transportation study regarding the Route 40, 155 Ontario, Otsego intersection. I've read this report a couple of times, once a while back, and when I saw it was on the agenda, I took another look at it. And there was a couple of really basic concerns I had regarding the report. One is it does not address the issues posed by the tolling policies of the state. It's great that the Haddam Bridge has a discounted toll, but that forces a lot of traffic right through the middle of town, and it would be nice if everyone in Maryland with using Easy Pass could also use 95 on the same deal, or do something to discourage the traffic that goes through this area. The second major concern I had about it was that it doesn't address pedestrian or bicycle safety whatsoever. And I think as much as the traffic is an issue, those are also an issue. And I've spoken before about it, and I know council members have spoken about the problems of pedestrian access, especially people who walk down Ontario Street where there's no sidewalk and there's no easy way to cross over. So that's a major concern. The city council, I think, has endorsed the Baltimore Metropolitan Council's proposal for a new bike route connecting Aberdeen to Havre de Grace. This study does not address that at all either, or other potential bike routes that the city is studying. It doesn't address the safe routes to school studies that the city's doing. So if we're going to study this intersection, it needs to be studied comprehensively. You can't just look at the cars. You can't just look at the trucks. And the alternate two, it presents its own problems in a way. Now people going up the hill, they've got to make a left turn, crossing 2 lanes of traffic, I believe, on 40. Then you got to cross through 155, or at least you had the light to get up to 155 and make one turn against traffic. So, but my major concern is that pedestrian bicycle safety is not addressed at all in this, and it really should, before the state makes another move on this. And just on a side note, I think we should all keep in mind that Camilla Way, there is a paper street through there. It could be a value in the future as a way to avoid some of that intersection, at least even for pedestrian bikes to get through there and then come down Otsego and then cross at a light through there. So just something to keep in mind in the future. But in general, it's really important to keep pedestrians and bicycle safety front of mind with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Sir in the back. Mr. Miller. Good evening, sir.
Greetings, everyone. Jim Miller, 320 Lewis Street, Havre de Grace.
Welcome, Mr. Miller.
Part of the reason I came here tonight was you have a public work session scheduled for this chamber on the 14th dealing with the Upper Chesapeake Hospital property. And I'm going to request that you consider moving that meeting over to the, what's that called, the Star Center, and bring in some good audio-visual equipment this time, not have a little TV like you did the last time where nobody could read it from the front row. The property is very contentious to the citizens that live in the area and people that are familiar with the historic district of Havre de Grace. And there's already zoning on that property. We don't need to increase the density of the zoning. The city doesn't owe anything to the Hartford Memorial Hospital or whoever owns the property now. Back a few years ago, they were discovered that they were stealing water from the city because their chillers were not recirculating the water. They were just using fresh water, and some DPW employees were doing some work, and they saw all this fresh water going down the drain that was coming out down at the end of Lion Street, and they traced it all back, and it was just, the hospital had illegally tapped into the water system of Havre de Grace, and they were using our fresh water for their cooling instead of recycling it. So they kind of settled, but no one knew how long they did it. No one could remember how long they did it. And the other thing I want to bring up, this downtown project that's going on. If you go down there during the day, it's a mess. There's dirt and dust all over the streets, and there's no sediment and erosion control on any of the properties down there. None of the storm drains have any protection, and that's a requirement. Here we are at the head of the bay, and luckily we haven't had any rain, so for the last 20 days, all that dirt and dust is just accumulating. They do sweep it off with a rotary sweeper, but that's not an approved method. They have to physically remove it with like a vacuum sweeper or a dustpan and dust brush, and they're not doing any of that. So I know some of the neighbors down there are complaining about, I washed my car Tuesday and now it's got a ton of dust and stuff on there. So somebody's responsible for that sediment and erosion control, and I don't want to see the city be the one that has to pay that fine. So that's all I have right now.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Miller. No, I said thank you. Oh, yeah, I said thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you.
I thought maybe you needed to just clarify.
We know where to find you. Who else would like to address council? Any questions among the council members? Comments? Okay, we'll move forward with the agenda. Okay, item 7, we have appointments to city commissions, and this evening we only have one reappointment, and it's to the Historical Preservation Commission. So I'm going to call upon the Historical Preservation Commission liaison to reappoint this person.
Great, thank you, Mayor. I move to reappoint Karen Ganano Martin to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Second?
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Jones, and it's seconded by Councilmember Shenanigans. This is for the reappointment of Ms. Karen Ganano Martin. Questions or comments? Yes.
A comment. I think that Karen is a great addition to the commission. She's so knowledgeable. She's a school teacher and just really an asset, so I'm glad that she is staying on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Jones. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to reappoint Ms. Martin carries 5-0 in the affirmative. So item 8. Wait a minute. Yep. Item 8. Recognitions. We have a recognition this evening that I think is going to surprise many people, well, not just in the audience, but probably at home. Recently, information came to our administration and council, through the help of Councilmember Jones, of a man who served the Havre de Grace City Police Department in the mid-1960s. What made him extraordinary at the point was he was the first black police officer for the city of Havre de Grace. But there was more to it than that, and I'd like Councilmember Jones to read a brief biography about this man.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And a lot of this information comes from his friends and family who are here this evening, in particular Mr. Bobby Parker, who was great friends with him, and I just wanted to read a little bit of what he shared with me. So tonight we want to honor a veteran of the Vietnam War and the first black police officer in the city of Havre de Grace, Mr. Lawrence Leroy Ringgold. Mr. Ringgold, affectionately known as Butch, was sworn in as a member of the police department in 1965, but it was for 1-year probation. Butch had many friends. Several of his friends and family are here in honor of this recognition from the city. One friend, Mr. Robert Bobby Parker Jr., had this memory of Butch that I'd like to read to you. Lawrence Ringgold both lived in Havre de Grace and went to Havre de Grace Consolidated. We delivered newspapers together. He was also on the diving team of the police department, and he should be remembered, as the first black police officer. He encouraged and taught kids how to swim. We were in the Army and Vietnam together. We went through paratrooper training together in Georgia. He treated everyone with kindness and respect, regardless of race, creed, or color.
Thank you, Councilmember Jones. Officer Ringgold enlisted in the Army a year later, and of course, in May of 1966, he was killed in action. And the council at the time, when they heard the news of the death of Mr. Ringgold, observed his passing. There's a picture on television. It's a picture of Mayor Vancherry in 1965 swearing Mr. Ringgold in as an officer, 59 years ago. And, it's interesting. I've been associated with this government since 2008. I served 7 years as a council member and 9.5 years as the mayor. And I've never heard of this man before. And the first thing I said was, can you imagine if an officer today, and we do have some officers that are in the military, went and served their country and got killed in line of action, we would have streets and schools named after them. So tonight is going to be the first step we take. We're going to recognize this man. And if I could ask the council members, if you want to join me in the well, along with the chief, and any family members that wish to come up. Everybody come up. If you're here to honor this man, come on up. You can be a part of this. Sister. Must have been 2 years old. Any other family members here? From? Hi, how you doing? Pleasure. Nice to meet you. Pleasure. And I know Emil. How you doing, sir? Looking good. Yeah. Everybody in? Everybody good? So, hey, how you doing? I'm good. So what I want to do, so again, we're recognizing a young man who was an officer for the city of Havre in 1965. And in 1966 found himself in Vietnam. And on May 17th, I believe it was May 17th, if I read it right, was his last day on duty for his country. And if anybody here, I know we have his relatives, we have a sister here and cousins, I'm going to give the microphone to anybody who wants to tell us a story about this man. Who wants to tell us a story? No. Because we're here to learn about him. You can't remember if you don't learn about him.
My name is Emil Cromwell, and we all get a little talk about swim. Let me tell you what I'm going to say about him. Butch Brown, we call him Butch Brown, and was another young man. They used to swim across the Susquehanna River to Cecil Camp Perry Point. That's right. It was a railroad, and they used to, under it, it was like a catwalk, and we'd swing out and drop down, and then they went that way, we went the other way. But Butch was a great guy. We all lived on the same block. We all attended the same school. And he and Bobby graduated in 1962, and I graduated in 1961. And it was many years before I was able to reconcile myself with that. And I finally went down to Washington, and I saw his name on the wall. So at that point, I said, no, because I knew what had happened, but I just didn't want to bring myself to see it But then when I saw it, it brought it to a close to an extent. So thank you for the time. I yield my time.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that story. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else wish to talk about the man? Bobby?
I'll say something.
Please. Thank you.
I knew Butch, and I can remember when he got on the police force. He came over to my house, and he said, I went to work today. He said, and Chief Walker called me into his office and said, how'd you get to work? And I told him I walked. And he said, no police officer walked to work. We'll pick you up from home, and we'll bring you home every day. And he was so excited about that.
What street did you live on?
He lived on a line street.
Line Street.
Line Street, yeah.
All live alone. Okay. Thank you for sharing that story. Anybody else?
Yes, my name is Yvetta, and I'm his youngest sister. I just wanted to say that being a sister, I never knew him. I never met him, never seen him, but I've always heard great things about him. And I just want to say thank you, and I'm representing my family. I want to say thank you, and I appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here tonight. Thank you. Anyone else? Absolutely.
I had heard, I can't remember where I got it from, but they had said that his picture would be in the police station forever. I remember going to the police station. I remember seeing his picture there. And then a couple years ago, my son came home from the Army, and I was telling him about it. So he said, well, let's go to the police station and see what's going on. So we went to the police station, and the person that knew about this stuff, he wasn't there. So he gave me his card and told me to come back whatever day it was. So my son and I, he's here now, my son and I both went back there at the time they told us to come back there. And the policeman was very nice, but he had never heard of him. He didn't know anything about him at all. And that hurt. Yeah, I thought I saw it there too. I told my son. When I went to that old police station, his picture was there. But at the new police station, they took me in the back room and showed me, it was just one guy who was running through Havre, and everything was shut down. They showed me stuff about that, but nothing about Butch. He had never heard of him.
Well, that's why we're here tonight. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Chief Crass, but I mean, I have an honest question. When you joined the Havre Police Department, did you know of this man?
No, sir, I didn't. And we would love to display his picture, so maybe we could work together and we'll get that back up.
We're going to find out if we have his picture on record, so we can make a nice one. If not, we'll try to reach out to the family if there's any other pictures. We'll make a nice presentation when people walk into the new police station lobby of the man. I mean, we will. Yep. So, like I say, we're all just learning about this recently, and like I say, history gets lost sometimes. That's why we have to remember, and we're going to correct it. But what I want to do, does anybody else want to tell a story? Anybody?
Hi, I'm Brenda Cromwell Snell, one of the Line Street gang. And we, of course, lived across the street from the Havre Grace Colored School, and that's where we attended elementary school there. And so we have a lot of years there. But Butchie we called him Butchie Brown. And of course, we ruled the 400, 500 block of Alliance Street. He was just a good, one of the kids. And we always enjoyed each other. Our families all enjoyed each other. Bobby Parker, of course, lived across the street and was never late for school. He tells that story all, and it's true. He was never late for school. And he and Butch were the best of buddies. So, and we all love Butchie.
Thank you. Absolutely, please do.
I'm going to end by saying this. I'm just finding out a lot about this. Bobby can tell you, we never discussed what went on over. So in a way, this is a close for him as much as he can close it. And I really can't thank the council enough for doing this because when I was talking about the swimming, the other young man's name was Charles Rumsey. They could have been on the Olympic swim team. But as you can see, that's why Butch was on the dive team. I didn't know any of this because I had left town during that time. But Bobby, certain things we never did discuss because it was too personal. So this is the first time really that anybody knows this other than Bobby and his wife, Bev. So it wasn't easy for him to do this. But I really thank him a lot for this because it brings clothes to a lot of us for us. So personally, I want to thank you again.
Thank you, Emil. We appreciate it. And I got one question for anybody that might know this answer. Was it any surprise to anyone when Butch became a police officer, or did he seem like he was just going to be a police officer? Surprise you? Okay. All right. Just trying to get to know the man a little bit. So I appreciate everyone's comments this evening. I appreciate everyone being here. And like I said, it's me being a history teacher, and I know I can speak for the council when they found the story out about Butch. And like I said earlier, if my God, if this would have happened today, I mean, it would have been a big deal. I mean, and I'm sure it was a big deal back then, but like I say, over time, the story gets lost, the people move away, the picture gets taken down, the police station gets moved, and just listen to some of the testimonies here tonight from people, it sounds like it happened yesterday. So it means a lot to me and the public, and I know the citizens of Havre de Grace, and we'll do what we can to get that picture back up on the wall in the police station and give him all the proper honor that he deserves forever. So say it one more time. Frank Maurice. Let me read this in the record real quick, and I'll hand this to Bobby. City of Havre de Grace, Maryland recognition. Lawrence Butch Ringgold. Whereas Lawrence Ringgold was born on July 17, 1944, and was a native and lifelong resident of Havre de Grace, and affectionately known as Butch. Whereas Lawrence Ringgold was sworn in as a member of the Havre de Grace Police Department by Mayor Van Cherry in 1965 for a one-year probation and received recognition from the Havre de Grace Consolidated School Teachers Association as the first Negro policeman for the city of Havre de Grace. And whereas Lawrence Ringgold was called to serve his country in the United States Army and gave his life in the line of duty in Vietnam on May 17, 1966, and was recognized by the City Council with a resolution of respect on May 18, 1966. Now, therefore, I, William T. Martin, Mayor of the City of Havre de Grace, and the members of the Havre de Grace City Council wish to recognize Lawrence Butch Ringgold for serving his city and his country faithfully and with dignity. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
We got that picture. I have a portrait in my house now. If you need I can dedicate that if you would like.
We would love that.
Okay.
Or we can make a copy and give you back the original and make a copy. Thank you.
Dedicate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. You have the original? Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight, and we appreciate this moment we had here with everybody. Thank you. God bless you all, and have a great evening. Oh, we want to get a group picture. Got to get a picture or it never happened.
I got that.
That's pretty wild, man. Like, I never even knew that. You definitely want to, like, make sure there's something in the police station. We definitely need
Sorry, I haven't been communications. It's like,
Okay, we're going to move forward. Item number 9, proclamations. We have no proclamations this evening. It's going to take us to item number 10, presentations. We do have one presentation this evening, and I would like to call for the Honorable Judge Mahoney to discuss Harford County Drug Court. Good evening, sir, and welcome.
Good evening. Next one? Yes. Perfect. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, members of the city staff. I appreciate the opportunity to speak briefly with you tonight. Particularly want to thank Ms. Ishak for helping coordinate my appearance here tonight. I wanted to talk to you briefly about the Harford County Circuit Court Drug Court program. I have the pleasure of presiding over the drug court since 2018. So we are in our 6th year, but we have had the opportunity to work very closely with the county administration and the county council, but it occurred to me over time that the municipalities sort of miss out occasionally on some of the information about what is going on. So I had the pleasure of meeting with the town of Bel Air a few weeks ago, and a couple weeks from now I'm meeting with the city of Aberdeen. And so I'm very happy to be before you tonight. We have, first of all, I would ask you if any of you know Albert Einstein's definition of insanity. Exactly. Exactly. I don't come before you today suggesting that I have fixed the problem. It's most appropriate, I think, that I speak to you tonight with the council very, very correctly recognizing the tragedy of the loss of the young man this weekend, and then to hear about Officer Ringgold and his service to not only the city but the country. Last year, we lost more people to drug overdoses than Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan combined last year. It is a problem that permeates our society and our communities, and nobody is exempt from it. I don't come before you tonight suggesting that I have a solution, but I had a judge tell me once as an attorney that as a court, we are given a crude set of tools to deal with the problems of our society. And that was driven home to me in the worst possible way once I came onto the bench. Drug courts have been going on since 1989. There are drug courts in all 50 states and in every jurisdiction in Maryland, with one exception. There's none out in Garrett County, but everywhere else there is some sort of problem-solving court. Now, I'm focusing on drug courts at this point, but there are a variety of courts. Drug courts, of course. We have mental health courts. We have truancy courts, veterans courts. Back on Track is a new program that just started in Prince George's County for first-time offenders, even in jurisdictions which have a large Native American population. There are tribal courts, and even getting outside of the criminal world, we have business and technology courts. The idea being that by creating a specialty court to address a particular problem, we're better suited to address the problem as we go on. My drug court consists of a team, and I've listed all of the participants on that team. We have prosecutors, defense attorneys, health department, private treatment programs, Department of Parole and Probation, the Sheriff's Department as representatives through the detention center. So, including our drug court staff, and I'm very happy to introduce Meg Kaiser, who is my drug court case coordinator. She coordinates the entire court. We also have a case manager who works for the program. We have mental health professionals. The idea is that we are identifying high-risk, high-need individuals who have had prior unsuccessful contact with the criminal justice system, and where it is apparent that their criminal behavior is being driven in large part by their addiction. Addiction is a disease. If you don't buy into that statement, you're probably not going to buy into much else that I'm going to say. It is a disease, but the person who has that disease is responsible for addressing their disease in an appropriate manner. I have type 2 diabetes. I would very much like to eat all of my grandson's Halloween candy that he has at home, talking to me as I walk past it every day. If I do that, I will suffer health consequences as a result of that. And that is my simplistic analogy to the disease of addiction. If people commit criminal offenses, we have to deal with that. There's a public safety component that's inevitable. But you cannot, and I think that history has demonstrated that we cannot incarcerate our way out of the disease of addiction. We have to address the criminal behavior, but we also have to address the disease. So the plan with our court is to identify those people, whether it's new criminal charges or violations of probation. Referrals to drug court, which is a voluntary program. Nobody is ordered into drug court. They are allowed into drug court if we have an opening and they meet the criteria. But they are either new charges or violations of probation. They can be referred by other judges. They can be referred by prosecutors, defense attorneys, probation agents, healthcare professionals, the jail. Almost anybody can refer somebody to drug court. They complete an application. They are evaluated both legally, because there are certain crimes that we won't take, crimes of violence, and of course crimes of violence runs a whole spectrum. So there are possibilities, but certainly very serious crimes would not be accepted into drug court. But once they must be Harford County residents. They must not have charges pending in other jurisdictions. So there's a variety of technical requirements, but once they pass that, then they are reviewed clinically, because we are not looking for the low-hanging fruit, I might say. We're not looking for people who have just recently started dabbling in drugs or may have picked up a first charge. These are for people who have been through the system a number of times unsuccessfully and keep coming back. And one of the reasons why I thought it was particularly important to talk to the local jurisdictions, when I first started as training to become the drug court judge, they sent me to St. Louis. They sent me to a suburb of St. Louis, and I specifically asked, don't send me to a place that's not like Harford County. Send me someplace that I can relate to in terms of my population and my demographics. And the judge that I met with, who was in a suburb of St. Louis, had been operating his drug court for over 20 years, and he said one of the most encouraging signs that he saw was that his local law enforcement really got on board, because they saw over time, and even I think on a county-wide basis, the sheriff's department may have difficulty with operating this way, but certainly the local police departments, you see those people who are citizens of this community who are sort of brought in on charges, they're sent to court, they may go to jail, they come back, same thing, and it's repeat over and over again. And I'm sure that your officers get frustrated because the problem's not being solved, and unless somebody's being charged with a really heinous crime, they're not going away for a long time, and they're inevitably coming back. And so that judge told me that he was able to get the local police to identify people who might benefit and talk to the prosecutor's office and say, this might be a person who would benefit from a drug court experience. So they can come from everywhere. Once they're evaluated and accepted into the program, it's a 4-phase program. It takes between a year to 18 months to successfully complete the program. We design, and the team tries very hard to pick treatment model and program for them, and identify and create a timeline for them that will work for them. It's not one size fits all. Here's the program, you're going to this program, everybody goes to this program. We have private entities that we send people to. We send people to the health department. We send people to a variety of things. Unfortunately, sometimes it involves sending them outside of the county because there just aren't enough particularly tailored programs to meet everybody's requirements or that have bed availability. They come to court twice a month, so they come to see me twice a month. I had drug court this morning. It's usually the first and third Mondays of the month. Everybody comes to drug court, even if they are away at treatment. They come to drug court on a Zoom call. And one of the few positives of the pandemic was we learned that we can operate remotely when need be and when it's appropriate. And so I can still have that interaction with the drug court participant even though they're away at treatment. They have a dedicated treatment team, they have a dedicated probation agent, they have a dedicated defense attorney, so it's a continuity, and because we see them twice a month, there's accountability. We operate on a incentive and sanction program, which again is something that if you apply the usual law enforcement court system model is different. Some people would chafe at it when they first hear about it. But a lot of what we do is based on science. It's based on clinical studies that have been done. We have to report to Annapolis in order to support our grant regularly with a lot of statistics. And statistically speaking, 60% of people who are charged with a criminal offense in Maryland are going to reoffend in the first 3 years. 80% of them are going to reoffend eventually at some point in time. Today, as I stand before you, we have had, in the last 6 years, 40 graduates of our drug court program. Again, over 6 years, 40 may not seem like a lot. It's not an easy program, and it's not intended to be easy. But for those people who might be not as persuaded about my arguments with regard to a disease model and how to fix the problem through that, who may look at something from, for example, a dollars and cents model, a recidivism model. As we stand here right now with 40 graduates, the recidivism rate of my court is 10%. So if you want people to not commit more crimes, and we all want that, this is a model that works. I can't take every criminal case, and I'm certainly not looking to take every criminal case. But for the right person who's ready to make the hard commitment and do the work, this is a model that does work. It also saves money. Going through the drug court program is considerably cheaper than the incarceration and probation model. So there's a number of good, solid economic reasons to support the program. The first phase is the shortest, but it's also the most intense. And again, it moves on to longer phases, less involvement as we get to the point where they need to be to graduate. The idea is that once they graduate from the program, we defer their sentence, and so the sentence then involves them either having a time-served disposition if they were in jail, or not adding any additional jail time to them. And we usually keep them on probation for a year after successfully completing the drug court program. We're at a point now where we're actually starting to put together an alumni organization to allow those people to come back in and help out with the drug court. And quite importantly, Ms. Kaiser, who's our drug court coordinator, is a graduate of the district court drug court program, which has been operating for a couple of years, even longer than the drug court here in the circuit court. We have some issues, and I'm sure that you might have been concerned, because anytime we come before any government body, the question might be, okay, is he going to ask for money? What's he going to ask for? One, I'm not allowed to ask for money as a judge. I'm not allowed to solicit anything, so you don't have to worry about that. But we do have challenges. We have challenges with acceptance of the model being used. We have challenges with regard to the support services that we need. It's very hard for our participants to find a job. It's very hard sometimes for our participants to get transportation, whether it's to court, whether it's to programs. Housing is a big problem for our participants. And what my goal is in going out to talk to all of you is to really just give you information about the program, because I'm sure as city council members that citizens come to you with all sorts of problems that they experience in their life, or that family members and loved ones experience in their life. And you might think, what can I do as a city councilman in Havre de Grace to address this issue? But I think that it's important that the city council, as well as all of the elected officials, know that there are programs such as drug court available, and that you might be able to share that information with your constituents and pass it along as it may become helpful to them as they go through their lives. So that's my presentation on the drug court program. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that any of you had.
Thank you very much, Judge Mahone. We appreciate everything that you explained to us this evening. I'm going to open up the floor to the council. Any questions from the council members? Councilmember Schnegas.
Good evening, and thank you for the presentation. This is my question. I know that due process, when someone breaks the law, they serve probation. However, I'm curious as to the length of the probation. Does it interfere with their self-esteem and ability to rise up and get back involved in the community in a positive way?
So they will be on probation during the time they're in drug court, so that's usually, again, a year to 18 months, and then once they've completed the drug court, I can put people on probation by law up to 5 years, but I usually add, if they've successfully completed and graduated, I usually add 1 more year just so that there's a connection and a follow-through on this. As far as the impact, I don't think it's the probation that really creates the impact on them in terms of, as you've commented on self-esteem, but their job. The job issue is the biggest one, but it's not the probation that's causing it. It's usually their prior and current conviction. And one of the organizations I'd love to talk to at one point would be the Chamber of Commerce, because I know that there are some jobs that employers simply are not in a position, right or wrong, they're not in a position to hire somebody who has a criminal record. But many employers can, and a lot of employers are looking, that they're having a hard time filling jobs. And what I would say to some of those employers who are at least in a position to hire somebody with a criminal record is, maybe if you knew this person was in drug court, that might give you a little bit more comfort level, because they're being supervised very intensely and are in treatment, actively in treatment while they're going through the process, that might be what tips the scales in favor of hiring them and giving them an opportunity. We have several employers who have consistently have said, you know what, that person that came to work for me that was in drug court did really well. I'll take other people. I'll try other people. Now, none of us can promise. I can't say if you hire somebody from drug court, it's going to be a great experience. I hope it will, and I think there's reason to think that. But sometimes it doesn't work. I have had to terminate people from drug court because they have been unsuccessful. I have lost people in drug court. I've lost people who were actively in drug court. I've lost 3 graduates. 3 of my graduates died of overdoses after graduating from drug court. So it's not a panacea, but statistically, it's better than some of the alternatives.
Thank you very much for making the program available.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Shenegis. Any other questions? Councilmember Jones.
Yes, thank you so much for coming today and sharing this with us. And you mentioned having conversations with the Chamber. If you haven't already, the Susquehanna Workforce Network might be a good connection for you. I see she's shaking her head. Yeah.
And they have partnered with us already on not only job training, but job placement, and have a specific program that is actually created just for that purpose. And so they've been a great partner with us already. And so thank you for that.
Absolutely. And my question was around the cost, because it sounds super expensive, not sure, but wondered if you could share the cost per person. And then also, I know that there are probably fees out of pocket. How does someone pay for that?
Okay. Do you have a number on cost per person completing the program?
I don't have that off the top. I would say maybe.
So the good news is that almost everybody has eligibility for some form of health insurance at this point. And so therefore, the treatment is almost always covered by health insurance. And if a participant comes to us not having health insurance, then one of the things we would do is work with them to obtain necessary health insurance for coverage. But one of the beautiful things is that I know when I was a practicing attorney, oftentimes the choice was somebody's going to come up with thousands of dollars for a treatment program, or they're going to get on a waiting list for some place like the health department where they may not ever get the help they need. And nowadays, we have those treatment opportunities. The probation that cost would exist no matter what. If they're on probation in a traditional court setting versus probation here. We've also had a number of treatment programs that have offered our participants scholarships. So we've had people go to the Char Hope Foundation, which is a wonderful farm in North Hartford where there's a women's house and a men's house, and they go and they live there for a year, 18 months, and they work on the farm while they are in recovery. And they have offered scholarships to our participants. Ashley has offered scholarships to our participants. Our drug court staff are paid for by a grant from the Maryland Office of Problem Solving Courts. So we have to apply for that grant and cross our fingers and hope that we get it and get more of it every year. We are hoping now to look for additional funding outside of it. One of the problems we run into is that our grant is restricted to certain things. It has to, in terms of what we can do. The incentives that we provide to our participants, you'd be amazed. This was something I learned as I went through it. You can give people non-monetary incentives that maybe are still valuable to them. So I may give a participant, they can be first in line, or they get to skip a hearing, or something. But the two things that sometimes when given the choice, some of our participants select is either a round of applause or shake hands with the judge. And I thought, he wants to shake hands with the judge, but their interaction with the judge up to this point has been very negative. It's the person who sends them away. So if the judge congratulates them on some maybe very basic accomplishment, making it 2 weeks while still complying with the requirements of drug court. We live in a society now of everybody gets a trophy. When I grew up, I had 2 trophies. Probably that's a recognition of my lack of athletic skill, but nevertheless, I had a football trophy and a baseball trophy that we won the championship in, and I valued those trophies. Now, you sign up for anything, you get a trophy. And when my kids moved out of the house, I remember them wheeling trash cans full of trophies that meant nothing to them out to the curb. Many of these folks have never gotten positive recognition for anything that they've done. And so somebody saying to them, good job, keep up the good work, is something that they cherish, and it encourages them and supports them to take the next step, because it's a journey. And one of the things we struggle with is that our participants, I tell them all the time, you didn't become an addict overnight, and you're not going to in long-term recovery overnight, but we have to address it slowly and steadily, but we have to give them some incentive as they proceed. And again, the science shows that model works, even though it's different than what we see in a normal court setting. You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Jones. Any other questions or comments? Well, Judge Mahone, we appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. And Ms. Kaiser, thank you very much for being here as well. Thank you.
I gave everybody copies of our documents with more detail. If anybody ever had any questions about the program, please feel free to contact my chambers, and I'd be more than happy to follow up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to move on with this evening's agenda to item 11, resolutions. We have a couple resolutions this evening. And item 1, counter resolution concerning adopting an annexation plan for 1005 to 1045 Pulaski Highway.
Mr. Mayor, first off, under annexation A, subsection 1, Ms. Ishak, could we verify the petition signatures? Do we have
Yes,
that?
I received an affidavit from the applicant. Is a single property owner, so there were no other property owners, and they verify they own the property. And do you have, Mr. Tracy, do you have a copy or the original of the affidavit? Thank you. Yes, I'll put that in the city records.
Perfect. Would you like a motion now to, for the waiver of the escrow, or?
We do that.
All right, then, Mr. Mayor, Council, I make a motion that we do waive the escrow for the annexation of 1005-1045 Pulaski Highway.
I'll second that. Council, I have a motion by the council president, seconded by Councilmember Booker. This is a motion to waive the escrow. Questions or comments? Councilmember Boyer?
Can you explain why the escrow is put there in the first place, and in this circumstance, why it's appropriate to waive it?
Yeah, so typically, this was adopted not that long ago to have the escrow requirement, because when we're dealing with larger annexations, it requires a lot more legwork that goes into reviewing the petition, making sure all the items are there. Sometimes it requires some engineering review and additional costs. So there's a $5,000 escrow payment that is drawn down from as we go through the process of the annexation process, and at the end of the day, if there's any funds left, it gets refunded to the applicant. Or alternatively, if it goes above $5,000, then they would be asked for an additional escrow. In this case, I looked at the petition. Is only a portion of a property that's already in the city, so it really doesn't involve a lot of the notices that need to go out. There's notice, but it's more minimal. And I looked at the legal time that would be required and staff time, and it's not going to be anywhere near the $5,000. And we can enter a reimbursement agreement where they would just pay as you go, and that would just be an easier model for this particular annexation.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion to approve the waiver of escrow is approved, 5-0 in the affirmative.
All right, then, Mr. Mayor, I move to introduce calendar resolution concerning adopting an annexation plan for 1005 to 1045 Pulaski Highway.
Second?
Council, I have a motion by the council president, seconded by Councilmember Shenegis. Questions or comments on the introduction of this resolution? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce calendar resolution carries 5-0 in the affirmative. This is a resolution, first of all, sorry. This is going to be resolution number 2024-29, 2024-29. Resolution by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of the Maryland Constitution, Article 11E, and the provisions of the Annotated Code of Maryland, Local Government Article, Sections 4-401, City Charter, Section 34, and City Code, Chapter 20, adopting an annexation plan for a portion of the property located on Pulaski Highway owned by Harbor Shops MD 2 LLC, consisting of a total of 0.8274 acres, more or less. Council will have a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-29.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Boyer, second by the council president. Questions or comments? Council, we will be doing a roll call vote on this resolution. Councilmember Booker.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Shenegis.
Yes.
By roll call vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, City Council Resolution 2024-29 is approved and adopted by council. We're going to item 3 under resolutions, and again, Council President.
Having approved the annexation plan, I move to introduce charter resolution concerning adopting the annexation of 1005 to 1045 Pulaski Highway for first reading.
Council, I have a motion by the council president. May I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilor Shenegis. This is a motion to introduce a charter resolution concerning adopting the annexation of 1005 to 1045 Pulaski Highway on first reading. Questions or comments on the introduction of this charter resolution? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce a charter resolution carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Council, This will be, charter resolution will be given number 303. The resolution by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of the Maryland Constitution, Article 11E, the provisions of the annotated Code of Maryland, Local Government Article Subtitle 3, Amendment or Repeal of the Charter, and Subtitle 4, Annexation authorizing legislative body of a municipality to annex property extending to the boundaries of the municipality by resolution, to amend the city charter, specifically Appendix A of the Havre de Grace City Charter, by adding subsection A.40 to first 2024 addition to the city boundaries, along with the legal description of the acres of land which will enlarge the boundaries of the city of Havre de Grace to include the property known as a portion of property owned by Harbor Shops MD 2 LLC, located north of westbound Pulaski Highway, consisting of a total of .8274 acres more or less. Council, to have a motion to adopt Charter Resolution 303 on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Boyer, second by Councilmember Boker. Questions or comments? Council, we're going to do a roll call vote. Councilmember Shenanigans.
Yes.
Councilmember Boker.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
By roll call vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, Charter Resolution 303 concerning adopting the annexation of 1005 to 1045 Pulaski Highway is adopted on first reading. Council President, given the notification requirements, would it be okay with you if we have the public hearing on this charter resolution at the second meeting in December?
Oh, yeah,
December
that's,
16th?
that's perfect.
Okay. So the public hearing on this charter resolution will be here at the council chamber at 7 o'clock. The second council meeting in December, which is going to be December 16th. Thank you, council. We're going to go to item 12 on our agenda this evening, ordinances. Excuse me. We have two ordinances, and first one is going to be a first reading and concerning approving a budget amendment. And Councilmember Robertson was going to read that, and he's not here. So, Council President, you up for a budget amendment?
Yep. I move to introduce ordinance concerning approving budget amendment 2025-03 for promotion of downtown activities for first reading.
Second.
Council will have a motion by Council President, seconded by Councilmember Boger. This is a motion to introduce an ordinance on first reading. Questions or comments on the introduction of this ordinance? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce an ordinance concerning approving budget amendment 2025-03 for promotion of downtown activities is approved. And this will be ordinance number 1169. This will be known as ordinance 1169. An ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, by the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the annotated Code of Maryland, and Section 37 of the Havre de Grace City Charter, for the purpose of amending the city budget for fiscal year 2025 to address the reallocations of funds for the city of Havre de Grace for fiscal year 2025. Council, to have a motion to adopt ordinance 1169 on first reading.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Jones and seconded by Councilmember Boger. Questions or comments? Council President.
This is a budget transfer, an amount of $40,000 from the facade and interior revolving loan account to the economic development advertising account. The advertising funding will be used for marketing and promotion of the downtown business district, events and festivities during the remainder of the construction phase.
Thank you very much, Council President. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So first of all, I think this is a fantastic idea, especially in light of our current situation down there. as we undergo some major transformation. Just one question, if I may, to Director of Economic Development and Tourism, is just from my own understanding, I know that the RAD loan was actually discontinued. I want to say, quite some time ago. Is the facade grant no longer available to downtown businesses?
So the RAD loan was a program that existed in the early 2000s to mid 2016-17. This is two different programs. It is not the same. So the RAD loan is no longer, it is defunct. And what accounts that we had existing is now being managed by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. The facade and tenant fit-out program is managed under my department under the Main Street program, and we have funding available. It is not a revolving loan fund. It is a 100% grant program, and we have funding available all the way until June 30th of next year, when we always write a new grant. We normally receive that funding the beginning of the next fiscal year, which would be July 1st.
Well, thank you, Director Johnson. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Mayor, I'm satisfied.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Boger. Are there any other questions or comments on ordinance 1169? Okay, first reading, we're going to go ahead and do a roll call vote. Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Shanegas.
Yes.
Councilmember Boger.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
By roll call vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, City Council Ordinance 1169 is adopted on first reading. And Council President, public hearing at the next council meeting?
That's perfect.
All right, November 18th. The public hearing on Ordinance 1169 will be at the next council meeting on November 18th at 7 o'clock right here.
Do I need to read the account numbers into the record?
In the past.
We still do the account numbers? Or is that part of the ordinance?
Oh, the account numbers, we had been reading them in the prior meetings, but
Yeah, we haven't been reading them in lately. No, we haven't. Now that we made the
now that we
budget
do it by
resolutions an
ordinance.
ordinance,
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
it's part of the ordinance now.
Okay.
So it's part of the document.
I'm sure Jason's
If you want to
really
read them, you
thrilled
can.
about that.
I mean,
I was prepared.
I mean, I'm not stopping
It's
you from doing
okay.
anything. I'm just
It's
saying,
okay.
we used to do it by resolution, now we do it by ordinance, and now it's part of the exhibit for the ordinance. But if you want to read them in, you can.
I'm fine.
Okay, all right. Okay, item B, and Councilmember Shanegas.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I move to introduce ordinance concerning amending Chapter 205, zoning related to veterinarian clinics in the first reading.
Council, I have a motion by Councilmember Shanegas. May I have a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Boyer. This is a motion to introduce an ordinance on first reading. Questions or comments on the introduction of it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to introduce an ordinance carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Council, this will be known as Ordinance 1170-1170. An ordinance by the Mayor and City Council of Havre de Grace, Maryland, adopted pursuant to the authority of Article 11E of the Maryland Constitution, the local government article of the annotated Code of Maryland, and Sections 33 and 34 of the Havre de Grace City Charter to amend Chapters 205 zoning. Council, may I have a motion to adopt 1170 on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Council President, second by Councilmember Shanegas. Questions or comments? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote on 1170. Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Shanegas.
Yes.
Councilmember Boger.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
By roll call vote of 5-0 in the affirmative, City Council Ordinance 1170 is adopted on first reading. And Council President, again, would the next council meeting be good for a public hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the public hearing on ordinance 1170 will be held at the next council meeting, November 18th at 7 o'clock. It'll be held right after we have public hearing on ordinance 1169. Thank you, council. That'll do it for the ordinances this evening. We'll go to item 13, old business. This evening, we have no old business. Item 14, new business. Item A, Council President Ringsacker.
Are we going to have a presentation, or are we just asking for a movement?
Excuse me.
Oh,
there is a presentation.
sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Presentation. Sorry about that, Council President.
I'll do it from here. How's everybody tonight?
Doing good. Great.
Good. Let me grab my notes, sorry. Good, I'm going to discuss a little bit about the Ontario and Ohio Street intersection study. Most of you have been here much longer than I have, so you might have a better history of this than I do. So I'll be able to answer some questions, but I'm not sure the history matters so much at this point, as much as the recent history, which I have been here for. So I'll get to it, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best. So basically, the intersection has issues. I think that's something that we all know, and it's something that we've been trying to take care of. When Ben Martirana was the planning director here, he had filed with SHA some information and paperwork and got this ranked as one of the intersections that had the most issues, safety issues in the state. He had issues with the state actually deciding to do anything with it. There's been a lot of back and forth, but let's just say we all know that there's issues at this intersection that need to be solved. Based on that, SHA worked with Wallace Montgomery, a consulting firm, in 2020, and they put together an intersection study. That study is part of your packet. If you haven't read it, that's okay. I'll try to paraphrase what's in there the best. On page 1, or page I actually, before you get to the table of contents, there's a brief summary. And basically, they looked at 4 different alternatives at this intersection of ways to reconfigure it. Now, some of these were looked at even before 2020 when there was the BRAC realignment stuff going on. Alternative 2 and 4 were looked at as being the best solutions for BRAC, with the idea that we were going to have all this increased traffic from all the increased jobs that would be coming to Aberdeen Proving Ground. So those were looked at previously. Those were then brought up with a couple other ones. And basically what this says is that alternative 2 and 4 are what they considered the best, but that there's still constraints. And that alternative 2 provides the best results with the lowest cost. So it's sort of the best value, the best bang for your buck that you can get without purchasing a lot of land and some other things. Mr. Place had mentioned a paper street. I don't know if that was looked at specifically, but I know that there'd be some blasting that needed to go on there and some serious work. So just the cost of those type of projects versus what the state can do now within the framework we have within the constraints, they kind of saw this as the best. Again, there are access and safety issues, diverting northbound traffic, but this is still sort of the best solution available with what we have with this alternative 2. So initially, a former city engineer had rejected this study. That was because something that Mr. Place had also mentioned, that it seems that there was an issue with the tolls. So when it's too busy on 95, people are getting off and taking the Hayden Bridge, and that's causing some queuing and some other issues here. They thought that maybe it would be best if we somehow look to rearrange it. I think what's important for this part of the story is that the people who deal with tolls at the state is a different group than the State Highway Administration. So what we found out last year, every year there's something called the Consolidated Transportation Tour or something like that, and that's at the county. And all of our local representatives and local senators come together and they meet with everybody from MDOT and SHA, and they discuss a lot of these issues. And this was a hot button issue there. People were wondering, why were projects getting funded elsewhere in the state, and there wasn't any really money coming towards Harford County. And they were asking, have you looked at tolls? Have you looked at this sort of thing? Come to find out, in 2023, we found out there was a study that actually did examine the tolls. So it showed that sometimes people do come down from 95, but that it's not a major cause of issues. That there's just other issues there based on the alignment and different things, but that the tolls weren't necessarily the issues. That study, the way they did it, they looked at cell phone pings to see where people were located at different time based on their cell phone. We also had an issue with that from Ben Martirana. He thought that we should have done license plate scanning and some other things to maybe provide better data. But I guess the fact of the matter is that we sort of have a solution that's possible for us now, and it doesn't preclude us from seeking additional studies with tolls and those things down the road. Alternative 2 would probably be the best way to go, and then if we could relocate tolls or do something with our toll method, that would make things even better. But we shouldn't kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater on this one. Yeah, that was the result of that study. So what we did, we met with SHA staff, we met with County Director, Department of Public Works staff, and some of our local staff. We discussed these issues. Again, they had said both Alternative 2 and Alternative 4 looked like the best solutions to this problem. We went out with that group on site and showed them a lot of the issues out there. We talked about the utility poles, that some of them have been relocated, but those were hit. There's the curb next to the Waffle House. There's the median in the intersection that trucks had hit and torn up. So there were just some additional issues that weren't necessarily looked at as part of this 2020 study. So we wanted to show that group those issues. So they did see those issues. At that same time, we've had this Safe Street for All grant that has come up that we worked with Bel Air and Aberdeen on, and this obviously was one of the intersections we wanted to look at. In that study, there's, let's call it Alternative 5, which was shutting down part of Ontario and Ohio Street behind Royal Farms, which would sort of stop some of the circulation issues. SHA just came back to us with the results about a month ago and said that Alternative 2 is still the best alternative, even with number 5 thrown in there. So that is why we are here today. This is just kind of a blow-up. This is in your packet. This just basically shows what the reconfiguration would look like. But there are still additional issues we need to deal with. Mr. Place had mentioned some of those. I'd mentioned some of those now with the trucks hitting the median. The study is 4 years old, almost 5 years old now, 4.5 years old. There are some other issues we need to look at. We do have a Safe Routes to School grant that we're at the very beginning stage of, but those items would need to be incorporated in. We do have that very basic study on Route 40 for the bicycle pedestrian path. Those would need to be incorporated in. We've had development approved at Wawa and some other places that looked at these intersections as well. So today, you're not taking a vote on them beginning construction tomorrow. There's still much similar things like we saw with the downtown reconstruction. There's a 30% design and a 60% design and a 90%. So we would hope that we would be able to work with SHA and the county as our partners and be able to incorporate those things as we go through the process. So these couple of red dots are just some of the areas that weren't included in this 2020 study that we pointed to them in the tour. We did discuss the bicycle pedestrian study for Route 40. They're obviously well aware of that. They were part of that project with BMC. SHA's requested a letter from the mayor saying, hey, are you guys okay with us starting to study this Alternative 2? The mayor's requested that there's a vote from all of you, that just to show that all of you are aware and to provide support for taking the next steps. Again, the next steps would be them starting seeking funding. I believe they would start doing that this round of funding that starts in January. So if you were in support of this, this would be perfect timing. We'd get this information to them, and they could start working with this year's legislation in Annapolis. And then, as I was mentioning, we work with the county, and the county provides a group of projects throughout the state that are priorities, and that's what they're seeking funding on. So I think this and the Route 40 pedestrian path were both priorities. they're trying to really get that group to 5 for the entire county. So with your endorsement of this today, this would take priority to start being studied and get fixed, and that's what they would really be focusing on their lobbying efforts with the state legislature. So that's it. I will take questions and do my best to answer as much as I can.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Yeah.
Council President.
Tim, first off, I want to say that I appreciate your work. I appreciate everything you've done on this project. My frustration in what I'm saying, what I'm going to relay, doesn't lie in you, it lies in the state. Every time we've had, in the 3 or 4 times since I've been on here, we've had presentations about issues with this and issue with the tolls. We get the same round and round, talking in circles from the state, and I understand the SHA doesn't handle the tolls. But they always tell us the same thing, that the Hayden Bridge is on a different fund than every other toll in the state, which it is. Okay, well, I could tell my kids to pick up I could ask my kids, like, why are their clothes on the floor? Because it's on the floor. Well, okay, pick it up, put it in the basket. We know how legislation works. We can change the Hayden toll to a different fund. We can do that, and to say that it's not creating a problem by having the Hayden Pass is completely disingenuous. Any fool could stand on that corner at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and see the thousands upon thousands of cars, because I drive through it every single day. The thousands of cars that come down 155 and just block up traffic all through there, and the idiocy, the idea that making that portion of Ohio, it's Ohio, into a one-way and forcing everybody to come up Route 40 eastbound and then cut up Ontario behind Rural Farms. First off, you're creating a traffic hazard for people crossing Route 40, again, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when you have all the traffic coming across. You're going to back up everybody on Route 40. Then you're going to back up people onto Ohio, because all those cars that are coming down 195 that I see every single day, and they cannot prove to me that they aren't coming down, because I see them coming down, because I follow them. If I'm coming, especially if I'm leaving from work, come across Baltimore, come across the top of the county, down 155, I see the same cars coming down, and tons of cars coming off of 95, and they go down. I'm following them to come here, and they cut across 155 where it goes up this intersection, and because they want to go across the bridge, and I see it every day, and I avoid that intersection myself if it's any time near rush hour, because the tolls are the root of the problem, and I think they're looking at, well, how do we fix this intersection without looking at what's causing the problem in the first place? And they don't want it. If you ever seen the movie Idiocracy, where, Brando has what plants crave, okay? Most people get that. Okay, but why do they crave it? I mean, we get the same talking points with the state about saying that the Hayden Bridge is on a different fund, but we can't move it to a different fund. And we can move it to a different fund. All it takes is legislation and cooperation from our representatives in the county and our representatives from the state. And I think that we've been talking in circles about this same issue, and now they come at us with this new alternative that is going to create even more problems. I think this is going to make it exceptionally worse. The only way you could even mitigate this in just a little bit is to put a four-way stop at Ontario and Ohio, because I guarantee you, if I'm coming off of Route 40 onto Ontario, after sitting there for forever on Route 40 to try to turn and then sitting there, people aren't going to let you in. They don't. You're going to sit there in long lines of traffic. And if people start to avoid that intersection, we're going to cause more problems for Havre Hills and Lewis Lane Extended, where we already have issues with the traffic there. I'm absolutely fervently a no vote, or a vote to disprove this study. So I appreciate what you've done. My frustration lies in the state, not with you, I promise. But
I don't take it personal. I'm
very frustrated at this, and I think that the Dutch. There's a word called defenestration, and it goes back to the Dutch actually tossing politicians out the window, literally. And I think that literally, if we were to approve this, then we would have to worry about it here in Havre, because our citizens wouldn't stand for it.
Yeah, I wonder, if, I think all those things you are mentioning are legitimate issues. I'm wondering, because there's so many phases of design, that if the vote that we take tonight isn't like carte blanche, hey, we want alternative two, but, you know, hey, can we get you to pay to 10% design and look at all the items Mr. Place had mentioned, some of the things we saw on the tour, and all the issues that you have now, and that there would be like some second endorsement later. Because I feel like what my understanding of this project in the short time I've been here is I feel like there might have been a lot of opportunities to get some funding for something, but we've always said no. And I feel like we can at least somewhat move forward and maybe see if the things that you say are definitely issues once they start looking at things. I don't know. I'm just putting out there, you know, I guess there's something in between a no maybe and a full like carte blanche approval of exactly what they've drawn in this plan. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Borsier?
Yeah, just real quick, Tim, Director Borsier, thank you. So you made a couple of comments, and one of them is like, is moving forward on an alternative, right? And we're not snapping a chalk line on anything definitive, but you made a comment, you said, do things now and then do more later, right? So the funding opportunity is there. I think you're absolutely correct as far as capitalizing upon that. You also talked about 30-60-90. Which is a perpetual plan to improve, right? And I don't think we're going to improve unless we start moving on that. So I do appreciate those comments. So this vote will be in favor of an alternative. Is really what we're doing, right? Mm-hmm. With no concrete, definitive. We're not locked into anything here, but. Right, but it does, exactly. So it does open the gates for funding, so, correct?
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I would just add that nothing's precluding us from continuing to work with the Toll Association to get those things moved. I'm not so sure that we wouldn't need to do some sort of realignment here, even if the toll thing was a perfect situation. We just continue to grow. We'll have a lot of stuff coming down 155. Right. And one good thing about the design is, as we're going through the approval process at Planning Commission with some of these new developments that are coming aboard, is that we can start getting some monies towards some of these improvements from developers. So potentially shelving this would preclude that as well.
And I understand some of the citizens' comments. I really do. And I'm all in favor of that as well, pedestrian. And we did mention BRAC, right? Because there was a study, and I remember that study. Raise your hand if you're part of BRAC, right? Hello, guilty. One of the things I noticed when I come in the intersection, I was like, wow, this would be a great place for a pedestrian overpass, pedestrian, bicycle. So that could be part of that 30-60-90 that you're referring to, that, and maybe one day we might see that archway across there, right?
I agree.
So, thank you.
You're welcome.
If I could clarify, so what they're asking for is a motion to approve or disapprove alternative number 2. So they're not asking for.
That's what we've written. So what the state's asked for was a letter from the mayor. I mean, that's what they asked for. The decision was made to bring it all to you because this is such a big decision. So I think you can qualify this however you want. I mean,
So could we make a motion? I apologize if I interrupted.
No, not at all.
We can make a motion to seek further resolution of this intersection with funding, further studies. Or, I mean, how would you word that?
To seek up to 10% design to study whatever issues you mentioned tonight. I'll go back in the recording and write those down, plus the things I mentioned and that Mr. Place had mentioned. Anything else that you can think of, and we can say, we're interested in alternative 2, but we believe more. Items need to be looked at, and these are the list of things minimally we want you to look at.
So we can move forward without actually having a motion to approve or disapprove?
We just got to get them a letter of some kind. So yes, the way that's written, I think, was from us. That's not the question from SHA. Mm-hmm.
So are we looking at maybe an amendment to the motion, perhaps?
So no motion has been made.
No motion.
Right.
It's only recommended wording.
Right, other than what's written on paper.
The presentation.
Councilmember Boyer.
So This has been one of those issues that I've tried really hard to follow and try to keep track of because, there's been effort upon effort upon effort and trying to coordinate everybody and get everybody to kind of like meet and come to the same place to figure out how we can get to a solution. It's absolutely ungodly that we have had this on the list of the top worst intersection in the county, but also in the state for 13 years now, and we still haven't gotten to a point of resolution. In 2020 is when they did this proposal and they sent it to the city and they were asking for comment. And what I keep hearing back when I talk to people with the state is, well, we still haven't heard from Havre Grace. We can't move forward unless we have something from Havre Grace. Now, in that intersection, while tolling is an issue, if you look at that intersection, there clearly is a volume issue, which is only going to be made worse by all the development that we have going on on the hill. That while it is a volume issue with people going over the bridge, we have a volume issue in and of ourselves as Havre Gratians. There's an infrastructure issue, clearly, because they keep running over all the curbs. They took out a telephone pole. I mean, it's not an intersection that functions well. It's not intuitive in any way, shape, or form. Third, we have a safety issue. We have a pedestrian issue, we have a bicycle issue, we even have a vehicular issue because it is not an intuitive intersection. The state, the governor's office has made it very clear. The Department of Transportation, their 3 priorities are first and foremost safety. Well, obviously, this intersection brings up the issue of safety. Second is to preserve the investment and reduce further costs. Clearly, this intersection also meets that criteria because they're driving over it and taking down infrastructure left and right in it. And then finally, the governor's priority is to advance the system for bicycle, pedestrian, and climate change in case of big storms. Again, every step of the way, this intersection fits that need. There is no pedestrian solution for there. You basically risk your life going through it. Riding your bike through it, don't even want to even try it. I know Chip does it. I have no idea why you would do it. Right. And then big storms. We have seen by the March, what was the year, 2018, we had a huge windstorm and it shut down the traffic on Interstate 95. It shut down the traffic for the whole East Coast because of it. So clearly, we've met that criteria as well. So we're at a juncture now where we can get something done, and I will hope that we are not going to beat our chest saying it's not good enough. Because I don't think there is a good enough solution for this intersection. I think we just have to make it better. It's never going to be a perfect intersection, but something has to be better than what we have now. Now, questions that I have for you.
Sure.
Why do they need our support? It's their intersection.
Yeah, I think because when this study first came out, there was sort of a categorical rejection of it. We said that, basically it didn't solve the problem with tolls, so we didn't want to look at it. That's what was being pushed at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were with me at that 2023
Yeah.
county transportation meeting, and we found out suddenly that there was this toll situation. So I agree, it may not have been the best methodology, but I'm with you that there needs to be some other solution that takes place here, and it looks like alternative 2 is that best solution.
So I think it's also in part because the state, and would you agree that the state is getting a lot of pressure from delegates and from the county administration saying, listen, we're not going to tell you to do anything more, you can't even fix this problem.
Yeah, I think that's part to do with it. And I also think that they don't want to start construction and have the city say, that's not what we want, and you're in here just,
And I believe there's probably been visibility beyond at the delegate level. Probably the governor and others have probably heard from people that this is kind of ridiculous.
For like 13 years, yeah, probably. Right. We've been at the top of the list for a long time.
So next question. You had said that there's different steps in their engineering process. Again, none of us here are traffic engineers, right? Everything is done through modeling. So they took the Safe Streets concept, they ran it through their modeling, and according to their modeling, it's not as successful as their option number 2.
That's
right?
correct.
But that doesn't mean, I mean, they're saying that is, they're not even saying that that's the best solution. They're just saying it's a better solution than what we have now.
Yeah, it's on that letter I, but it says, provides best capacity results with lower construction costs compared to other capacity improvement. So it's the best bang for your buck. But there are access and safety concerns diverting northeast-bound Maryland 155 traffic to Ontario and operational issues with southwest-bound Maryland 155 double left turn movement. So they've recognized some of these things, but again, it feels like, it doesn't feel to me reading this that these are always going to be problems. It's saying, you know, on first
So they
on first
recognize it
glance,
as a problem and something that should be addressed in
needs to be
future
ironed out.
study.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So concerns that we've heard, and I'm just gonna like knock on it too. Their report from 2020 does not include pedestrian or bicycle safety.
I didn't see any of that in here.
So one would assume then that in future versions, that would have to be something that they would have to incorporate in their study.
Yeah, I would think so, and I think that would be something we put in any kind of letter that came out of
Absolutely.
of this
And of
meeting
course, the
today.
Metropolitan, and it's something that we haven't also talked about is, you know, when the bridge gets reconstructed, and especially in the short term, when Lewis Lane is shut down, there's going to be even more pressure on that crazy intersection. That wasn't even in their planning either, right?
Yeah, I think Amtrak was paused at the time that this came out, so I don't think that was a consideration.
So that would probably be something else that we should probably include in there, are concerns that it be considered as well. Public comment. I know that's this is a pretty significant part of any major acquisition project. What is the public comment process? Because clearly, by us doing this today, that's not really ample opportunity for people from Havre Hills or from Grace Manor to provide comment on any of this. So moving forward, what will the public comment be most likely for the state before they move forward?
I'm not sure I can ask them on that, but I guess there would always be the opportunity that even if they didn't provide a public comment session, that once we got information from them, there'd be nothing stopping from us.
So that, again, would be
Reaching out on
something
our
that
own.
we could include in our letter, saying it's very important to us that public comment be an integral part of the process.
I think it's fair.
How about the county? What's the county saying?
The county felt that either alternative 2 or alternative 4 was the best. That was in our meeting with them. And they had came to that conclusion, it sounds like, independently from SHA. And then when we got into the same room, I think SHA was more leaning towards alternative 4, and the county mentioned alternative 2, and then they sort of agreed on it. But alternative 2 and 4 are pretty close.
And did the county express any concerns at all? Or were they gung-ho?
I think it's always been kind of qualified that this area has constraints and there's only so much you can do, and that the solutions being provided are the best considering what's available.
Okay. And based off of the current version of alternative 2, what was their plan for the crossing, other than they acknowledge it's going to be a challenge? Did they have any plan to mitigate the crossing of Route 40? Because I'm thinking again, you know, storm of the century, or heaven forbid, because it happens twice or 3 times a week, southbound 95 gets shut down and everybody gets on to Route 40 South. How does somebody get across there?
Yeah, I think those are things that are going to have to be fleshed out in future design phases, because this was really just sort of conceptual.
A conceptual design. Okay. That's it. I personally would like to see us keep the door open so we can get some movement to go forward. I don't feel that if we are absolutists and think that, no, it has to be the perfect solution, I don't think we'll ever have a perfect solution for that intersection. And I personally would like to be able to walk across that intersection someday and not fear for my life. Thank you.
Who else have any questions for Mr. Boursier?
I just have a quick comment. We're not going to say in our letter that we're looking at 2 officially, right? We are. Is that?
I think you'd say you'd look at alternative 2 officially, but it sounds like from the comments here that you would qualify it that you'd like additional study for alternative 2 to see how viable it is, and that there's specific concerns that came out of this meeting that you'd
Okay.
like to address, and then we would give that list of concerns.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good to me, because I'm just staring at 2, and I can't, it's not making a lot of sense to me at the moment. So I would want to study it a little bit more, but it would be helpful if they came back with some more information on that.
Yeah, transportation's not my thing either.
It just looks, I'm just trying to figure out how that's going to work, but cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Borsey, thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for answering questions. Council President?
I'd like to ask if we could have, I apologize, what's the name of the commission? Street Traffic Safety? Thank you. Maybe have them draft a letter with their recommendations to come back to the council for approval of the letter. Would that work?
Sure.
So that's my motion. Well, I guess we don't need a motion.
So
I
you
could
would
ask-
like street and traffic safety
Okay.
to capture the will of the county, or the city council.
Oh, the will of what you just spoke about, what you just said, about your concerns about.
Why can't we
with
do
number
it for
2.
ourselves?
Because I want to see the letter drafted, is what I'm saying. I mean, if I'm going to vote on that, that's what I'd like to see the letter drafted, with the
Wouldn't we
concerns.
draft it?
We're voting to move forward with some funds, right, to
No, we're not even voting for funds. We're just saying that
Whether
we
like number 2.
acknowledge that it can move forward. So I agree with you. I'd like to see something drafted. I don't think, the opinion of the committee, I think, is extremely valuable as a whole, but I personally believe the drafting should be done by us, the city council, or the mayor's office as a first draft, and then I think that's our role.
Okay, well, I don't choose to move forward with the motion at this time.
You
Feel
don't have
free, I mean, any of the council members can, but I choose not to do that.
No action's been taken on item A, right?
Correct.
Well, I'd like to make the motion. I'd like to make the motion that the letter is drafted for the approval of alternative 2 possibilities, right? That's my motion.
Second.
Based on that, right? Thank you. And then based on that, then we can actually, there is forward momentum here, and I really want to capitalize on this. Otherwise, we're going to be stagnant just like we were in 2020. At least we have some forward movement. I do agree with Council President, some of his comments in regards to, the one-way there. However, I think that can be fleshed out within a document. So ergo my motion.
Can you say that one more time clearly? I mean, just so we have it.
So my motion is to go forward with the draft letter in recommendation of alternative 2.
So your motion is to draft a letter.
Yep. In positive response to approve alternative number 2. And what it will be in motion. And what it will be a variation, of course, just like we hashed out. That's what the letter will clearly opine.
Would you accept a friendly motion that it would be for consideration at the next meeting?
I think we could move forward that quickly on it. I think we could do it on the 16th, right? I think so. I think we could.
Dr. Ritchie,
I'm unfortunately not going to
since we have to execute this, do you understand what's being asked?
I think I understand. So we would draft a letter in support of option 2, but request these considerations that that have been discussed tonight from the public and the council be looked at by State Highway as they're proceeding with the 10% design.
As they go to the next phase of design.
Okay, as they go to the next phase.
That's
Letter will be voted on at the next meeting? Is that what we're saying?
If
we're
the
gonna make a
council
resolution,
so
we have to
wishes.
make a very clear
yes.
resolution. Or you just,
It's not asking for a
or you just
resolution.
ask the administration to carry this out. But if you want it to be legislation, it has to be very clear so we know what we have to deliver. Or the council president can request the flavor of what you're asking. I mean, it's up to you. Do you want it codified, I mean, by legislation, or do you want to ask
Okay with
us to
them
do it?
drafting based off of what we
Sure.
said.
Sure. That alternative two could be codified within a draft letter.
Okay. Whatever it is, we'd have to have a very clear resolution because we have to provide it for you, and we don't want to mess up. Okay? That makes sense? All right, so we're going to do a request, or we're going to do a resolution?
So I'm requesting at this time that administration draft a letter with our concerns addressed in that letter for the resolution at the next council meeting. Does that work?
Yes.
But we also
And
have
I
a
will
motion.
acknowledge with the Director of Administration, do you understand the request from the council president?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and we will provide that. Fair enough?
Okay, we still have a motion on the floor.
Okay.
You want to remove the motion?
Withdraw motion?
I will withdraw my motion for favor of
Yep.
a better worded motion. That almost says the same thing my motion said, but that's okay.
It just sounded like a word salad. Everybody was throwing good ideas in it, but we have to have a clear motion.
It is, and the word salad's been occurring for quite a few years, but I think the council, I think everyone on the dais here, especially the council, is in agreement that forward motion is actually necessary.
Right. Well, I know what you're asking, so we'll carry it
Sure.
out for you.
Absolutely.
All right,
So-
thank you very much. All right, thank you, Dr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll second Council President's amended motion.
We have to
So it's not a motion, it's just a request from the council president.
Okay.
It's just a request.
Okay.
The council president officially made a request in front of the dais, and the mayor and director of administration acknowledged that request, and we'll provide it. So it can be done that way, too. Yeah,
That works.
okay. Thank you.
And again, Tim, if I may, I'd like to thank everybody for indulging me in my rantings of a madman. Very passionate about this. I've dealt with this. I've lived here longer than anybody else on the council since I was a kid. Since my parents were kids, that's been an issue. And I still wholeheartedly believe the root of the problem is the tolls. So, thank you.
We're going to go to special events. Dr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. For your consideration this evening, we have 3 events that, Council President, if you'd like, we could just do on a consent calendar.
Please, with no objection.
So the first event is Community Christmas Candlelight Service on December 23rd, 2024, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Tidings Memorial Park. The second event is the Havre Grace Winter Farmers Market. It will be run from January 4th to April 19th, 2025, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and it will be on the 700 block of Pennington Avenue. And the third event is the Havre Grace Youth Sailing Program Summer Camp from June 16th to August 8th, 2025, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Hutchins Memorial Park and Community Pavilion.
Thank you, Dr. Ritchie. Counselor, to have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Councilmember Jones made a motion and seconded by Councilmember Schnagus. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Consent calendar carries 6-0 in the affirmative. Item 15, Director's Reports. Dr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, citizens. I will be very brief this evening. I just wanted to recognize that last week the city held their Employee of the Quarter luncheon on Wednesday, and I would just like to recognize the winners of that. So in no particular order, congratulations to Lucy Torres from Finance, Anthony Molesky from the Police Department, Tracy Conaway from Finance, Ken DiPietro from Public Works, Steve Young from Public Works, and Naomi Wright from Public Works on all winning their respective Employee of the Quarter awards. Very well deserved. We are fortunate to have such extraordinary employees that work for us. So congratulations to all of them. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ritchie. Good evening, Mr. Boursier, Director of Planning.
Thank you again. Just briefly, I have October's permitting numbers. So we had 12 new homes for 12 homes for new construction. 6 of those in our new development. I think it's Scenic Vista, which was originally known as Scion Hill. That's 144. They are starting to move. So we have some of those places up on 155 that have been approved that are actually getting home buyers, and there's houses being built up there. We had 12 more renovation and additions and 26 others. So we are still on a real busy clip, and we expect this to continue. On that note, I'd mentioned e-permitting software a bunch of times. We have put that into place in August. It is going pretty smooth. We had one small hiccup at the beginning, and we think that that was just in transition from the old software to the new software. We've addressed that issue, and now we're sort of in the tweaking phase. We have a planner that is our senior planner that's moved into a full-time role. So if you see Adam Raylu in the hallway, tall guy with bushy hair, he's our senior planner. He's partially dedicated to permitting, processing permits for the city. We also have Eric Lawrence, all of you know, that is partially involved in permitting. So where it was just Marissa Willis before, we kind of have an all hands on deck approach because we've been busy and we're continuing to modify our process now that we have this online software. So we hope things will continue to move smoothly, even though we're super busy, and hope to be able to continue to serve the public well. That's it for me, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Boursier?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tim. Good evening, Ms. Johnson, Director of Economic Development.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, citizens in the audience and at home. I just have 3 updates real quick of meetings in November. So on Tuesday, November 12th at 6:30 p.m., I will be speaking at the Merchants meeting. It is going to be held at McGregor's upstairs in the banquet room. It will be myself and Christine McPherson with the Department of Housing and Community Development, and we will be addressing the Maryland Main Street program and the Havre Grace Main Street program. On Wednesday, November 20th at 10 a.m., we have our regularly scheduled Tourism Advisory Board meeting here in Council Chambers. And as well, later that day, Wednesday, November 20th, 4:00 p.m. here in Council Chambers, we have our Economic Development Advisory Board meeting. We do not have a guest speaker this month. We will be using that time as a work session to discuss the projects we would like to work on in 2025. And last but not least, everyone please follow Explore Havre Grace Facebook and Instagram and our website. We have so many events coming up between now and January 1st. I could not possibly list all of them, but they are on Explore Havre Grace, so please continue to follow us. Unless there are any questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Johnson? Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Appreciate it. Good evening, Deputy Director of Finance. How are you, sir?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Before I get started, I'd like to thank George Doherty for subbing in for last week, 2 weeks ago. My family celebrated my son's 2-year birthday, so I do appreciate that. I'm sure he's a pro. He's been doing this for quite a few times, and soon to retire. In terms of the financials for just completed last week, our financial statements for 24, that has been completed, and we're waiting for a commentary from our partner of auditors to stop by and provide the council, the mayor, in terms of the narrative of what we had for fiscal 24. We'll also be providing the hard copies when it's available for our financial reports. In terms of our FY24 financial condition for the general fund, since our last report, our fund balance is down $928,300. With an ending balance of $8,966,200. This is a reflection of revenues being up $106,000, while expenditures are up $1,028,900. In terms of our water and sewer fund, our current fund balance stands at $5,097,900, which is down $562,400 since our last reporting. This is a reflection of revenues being up $118,000, while our expenditures are up $680,400. Lastly, the Marina Fund, the current fund balance stands at $750,900. which is down 4,700. This is a reflection of our revenues being up 9,600, while our expenditures are up 14,300. So that concludes our financial updates for this council session. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Abdul? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And happy belated birthday to you, son. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director of Public Works, Mr. Merlizer, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council President, council members, citizens. Tonight I just want to discuss MS4 reporting and MRWA apprenticeship update. I'd like to give a quick shout out to Kevin Wilson and Naomi Wright, as mentioned by Dr. Ritchie. They did a really good job on working on this report called the MS4 report, the Maryland Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Report. Quick fact about that, it was a large-scale project from 1972 with the formation of EPA and Clean Water Act. Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, right below Lake Erie, caught fire 13 times in 1 year. So that's the reason why some of the reporting came down, and it went from a large scale and just kind of came down to the municipality level. So the report's more rigorous. It takes about a year to complete. Kevin and Naomi worked with HOAs, developers, citizens, and our own staff to help put together this pollution discharge plan and to help with water quality. So they did a really excellent job on that, and together they manage about 180 storm ponds citywide. So that's a pretty big feat for two folks like that, and they do a really good job doing that. So shout out to them. MRWA program, I know I mentioned it before, the Maryland Rural Water Association, working with Dr. Ritchie with the approval of the mayor and also HR director. We've moved forward with a new candidate for an apprenticeship program, which is one of the first in Maryland, which is a really good opportunity for us. So we're looking forward to signing that apprentice. So we call it an apprentice purposely, not an intern apprentice. We try to have them as a long-term employee for the future and to train and retain some talent for other municipalities, even if they don't stay here. So I think it's a really good program, and I appreciate all the support from the staff for that. As mentioned, we're probably one of the first in Maryland, so that's really cool. And I did want to comment on Halloween costumes. They look really good. A lot of construction workers, one in the audience out here. So that was good to see and motivating to see everybody supporting the high-vis construction workers and the trades across the city. So that was awesome, motivating for me.
Thank you very much, sir. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Merlizer? Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Chief Crass, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing warmer today than yesterday. So, good evening, Mayor and council members, citizens. So one thing just wanted to share, the Maryland Department of Natural Resources has implemented a statewide ban on open burning. That took effect on Friday, November 1st. This is through all Maryland counties. So the extremely dry conditions persist across the state and have led to above average number of wildfires statewide, and the conditions are not expected to change in the near future. The ban will remain in effect until the Maryland Forest Service determines that the state has received enough precipitation to reduce the threat of wildfire statewide. And you know, we've all seen the smoke. There's a pretty substantial wildfire on APG right now and affecting air quality in our region. So it could happen. Open air burning, such as campfires and such, are not permitted under the burn ban. But the state law does permit the use of propane grills. So the law defines open air burning as a fire where any material is burned in the open or in a receptacle other than a furnace, incinerator, or other connected to a stack or a chimney. So that wouldn't preclude colder. You know, if you had a wood stove or something like that, you're fine. But you just can't have open campfires. So just wanted to make sure that we're all going to be compliant.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief? Councilmember Schneegers.
I just want to clarify on the open fire. Can you have a fire that is contained in a pit with a lid over it, or is that banned as well?
That would be banned. It would have to be in some type of like a closed, you know, Yeah, it would have to be something that's very contained, so, yeah.
All righty, thank you for clarifying.
Thank you, Chief. All it takes would be one spark, right? So, yeah, we've had, I think, what was it, the weather meteorologist today said we set a record? Yeah, I mean, so we just set a record for the longest stretch of no measurable rain, at BWI, since recorded weather, which happens to be the same time we're doing the downtown reconstruction. It gives new meaning to the phrase "pardon our dust," right? So you can't make this up. You know, I mean, it's like 150 years of meteorology record keeping. No dust, no mist, no fog, no drizzle, no showers, just nothing but dust. And we've even gone to doing some thin asphalt coating on some big patches of dirt area just to keep it down. So we're going to work on it. But yeah, we could all definitely use some rain for sure. So let's hope that comes along. But that doesn't mean people aren't riding the trolley. I'll tell you, that trolley is getting some miles on it. So far, this last weekend alone, almost 500 people rode the trolley, and the trolleys drove 432 miles, all on electric. But for the whole month of October, in 12 days, we had nearly 3,000 riders, almost 2,000 miles, and luckily to our good ambassador drivers, we have 0 incidents, knock on wood. So, trolley's been doing a great job shuffling people around the farmers market and other events in the town. So we really enjoy when our citizens get a chance to use it, and the people will take the time to come visit our fair city. A lot of stuff going on. Man, October was a very busy month, and everything went really well. A lot of events, a lot of successful events, a lot of people coming to town. A lot of great plays at the Opera House, a lot of good shows at the Star Center. So it's a time of year where I know everybody's focusing on the holidays now. We went from October 31st to November 1st, and just like that, 3 stations on satellite radio is playing music. I tell you, like, they just one from the other. You don't get a break. So we're now in the holiday season. A lot of things going on in Havre de Grace. Get a chance, support your local businesses downtown. Just because the sidewalks are dusty doesn't mean that the shops aren't open. So they're all open, ready to do business. Restaurants are ready to serve up good meals. With that said, the annual Oyster Feast, Havre de Grace Oyster Feast, is always the Saturday before Thanksgiving. Tickets are now on sale. You can go to Explore Havre de Grace and find the link. $15 of every ticket sold for the Oyster Feast goes to a participating nonprofit of your choice. I know many people out there have been before. You know how it works. And if you haven't been, if you have any questions, please feel free to call City Hall or the visitor center will help you out. But it normally sells out around 600 tickets. So don't delay if you're thinking about going. Buy your Oyster Feast tickets. It's always a great time. Veterans Day, November 11th. I believe there's a Veterans Day parade planned. What time is that parade? 11 o'clock? Yeah, 11 o'clock, of course. Yeah, duh. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, 11 o'clock, Veterans Day parade. So please come on out if you're one of those government employees that have the day off. We want to see you at the parade, right? Anyway, I'm just joking. I finally have off. As a teacher, they finally gave me off for Veterans Day. I normally work Veterans Day all the time, so I got off on Veterans Day. So I'll be at the parade. Yeah, it's been great. I'm very excited to be part of it. So, all right, absolutely. So Veterans Day on Monday the 11th, and it's always going to be a great thing. The American Legion does a wonderful job with that. So that's really all I'm going to talk about this evening, although I do want to thank Major Joe Alton. Yesterday he ran quite an operation at Coakley's. He had a bunch of people lined up to be dunked from in a dunking booth from 12 to 6 or 12 to 5. And it was a great fundraiser. It was for the Maryland Special Olympics, and he's known as a super plunger. So that's an exalted term that not many people get. He works hard for that term. And I know Chief Crass was in the booth, and a lot of local principals were in the booth, and local business people, and I had the 4:30 shift. And I tell you, I should have done the noon shift because the sun was in the backyard of Coakley's at noon. The sun was down at 4:30, and it was like 52 degrees. And it wasn't the water that was cold. It was sitting there for a while that was cold, because nobody knows this. but Will Norrie from Coakley's was putting warm water in the buckets. So whenever someone would hit that thing, it's like, oh, God bless you. And they're like, warm water would come down. Of course, you're acting all like, oh, you know, and it's like, warm water. But then you're just sitting there, you know, for like a couple minutes and no one's throwing anything. I'm like, anybody else want to throw a ball? But no, we raised almost $4,000, you said. So it was a good cause. So Maryland Special Olympics, Major Joe Alton did a great job. So, and some of your officers participated in it too, I saw. Yeah. Heard you made him wear blindfolds though. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah, that water felt good though, didn't it? All right, well, thank you very much, and congrats to Major Alton in his efforts, and we support him 100%. With that, we're going to go to comments from the council, and Councilmember Jones, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for all of you who are still with us this evening in the chambers, and for all of you at home for still watching. Just have a couple things. One, make sure you go out to vote if you have not already. Make sure that you get out there, and I think that transportation is half off for tomorrow. Does anybody? I think that's what I heard. If you need to catch the bus, yeah. It's free. Free, 100% free. There you go. So make sure you get out and vote tomorrow. I do want to mention with all the things happening around gun safety and in the county, I want to mention an organization called Be Smart. And the URL is besmartforkids.org. It stands for, the SMART stands for secure, all your guns in your homes and your vehicles, model responsible behavior around guns, ask about the presence of unsecured guns in other homes, recognize the role of guns in suicide, and tell your peers to be smart. So I just want to give a shout out to that organization. It has been, there have been some sessions in the county where they've come and they've talked to some different schools, but I think this is information that should be really countywide, because it's really important that kids, you know, when I was younger and we didn't have guns in the home, but I know friends that did, and if your dad said, don't touch it, you didn't touch it. And now you can't really rely on kids. They don't listen to that. They don't think about the consequences. So I just wanted to mention besmartforkids.org. If you can take a look at it, I think that it's definitely saving lives and can save some lives in our county. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Jones. And good evening, Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for saying that, Councilmember Jones. There's nothing really that you can say to even address this situation correctly, but there's something that we can do moving forward to make sure that it's not a pattern that's repeated. And it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure that that happens. So thank you for saying that. I also want to thank everybody on council for agreeing to draft a letter so that we can have or create some forward momentum to address the issue at the crazy intersection. I truly appreciate that. And I look forward to reading it. I know you guys are going to do a great job capturing the comments of everybody and what our concerns are. I see with all of the construction that is slated to happen on the Hill that that intersection is just going to become a juggernaut, that we just need to try to find a solution to make it a bit more palatable. Again, I also believe another part of the solution is to encourage business development or businesses locating up on the Hill. I know that's probably something that we're going to have to work on next to make that happen, but every little piece will help make it so that the intersection is just a little bit safer, just a little bit more palatable to get through. So thank you all very much for your consideration of that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Boyer, and good evening, Councilmember Shenegis.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Administration, citizens in the audience and at home. I just want to say it was such a wonderful experience to see the children and the families dressed up for our downtown trick-or-treating with the businesses. I want to thank the businesses that stayed open extra late to make sure that they fit into the time frame of 5 to 7 to be acknowledged and to welcome the families. It's great that that tradition carries on. I thank the Recreation Board for making sure it happens, and for our city and DPW workers securing the area so that all of our children and families are safe for this wonderful event and tradition. I want to announce that this coming November 13th at 4:30 p.m. is the next Marina Commission meeting in the City Hall conference room. So if you are interested in learning more about the Marina Commission, our new chair, he is Josh Argentino, and he is doing a wonderful job taking the lead, and we look forward to hearing from him in the near future at our next council meeting. So thank you all, and have a very wonderful weekend coming up. Back to you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Shenagus. And good evening, Councilmember Booger.
Thank you, Mayor. Director, citizens who are with us, either in person or at home. I'll keep my comments short. First, I want to give condolences to the friends and family of Jade Winchester. He's a true warrior, and my heart just kind of goes out for the death of a child. As the mayor mentioned, 11 November is the Veterans Parade. We're going to line up at Hutchins Park around 10:30, and then probably step off right promptly at 11 o'clock, and we'll proceed down St. John's all the way to the American Legion. So please join us for that. Cheer us on. It's going to be a great time. Of course, and the government employees are off that day, right? So. I also want to announce that the Water and Sewer Commission is having their meeting this Friday. So if you look at the city website, it's actually there, right there on the calendar for this Friday. Feel free to attend that. There's always good attendance, always great updates. And I also want to make just a quick note here that the Chief of Administration tonight has a Santa Claus on his lapel. Don't think I didn't notice. I'm all about Christmas, right? So I am right there with you, my friend. I'm right there with you. And lastly, I want to thank our fantastic police department, our Susquehanna Hose Company, our EMS, our ambulance corps, and our beloved first responders. Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Booker. And now we're going to go to comments from the council president.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was my turn. I'm just in my head about this whole, sorry, Mr. Mayor, council, citizens. The whole shooting thing with the student that passed, it affects me deeply that both the shooter and the kid that was shot, both involved with the football team, both were the accused shooter, I'm sorry, and my son and my wife and my entire family. It's just tough, but we'll move forward because this week we're in the playoffs. We'll be playing against Joppatown on Friday here at home, so make sure you come out, support the team, support the boys. Last week we beat Northeast 43-6, and the week before that we beat Rising Sun 46-8. So Warrior proud, Grace on top, and I've got to read this. So, Mr. Mayor, council, citizens all, under the Open Meetings Act, General Provisions, Article 3-305, motion to go into closed session upon adjournment of the open session on Monday, November 4th, 2024, to consider the following matter. 1, to consider acquisition of real property for a public purpose. 2, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice. 3, to consult with city staff and city attorney about pending or potential litigation. This meeting will be closed under the General Provisions, Article Sections 3-305B. 3, to consider the acquisition of real property for the public purpose and matters directly related thereto. And 7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice. And 8, to consult with staff, consultants, or individuals about pending or potential litigation. The reasons for closing this meeting are deliberations are for acquisition of real property in the confidential setting is in is in the city's and public's best interests and are permitted under the Open Meetings Act. Consultations with the city attorney regarding advice and pending or potential litigation are entitled to confidentiality under the attorney-client privilege. The city council will not resume open session after the closed session, and votes, if any, will be recorded in public at the council meeting on November 18th, 2024. And that, Mr. Mayor, is my motion.
Council, I have a motion by the council president to move into closed session at the adjournment of this meeting. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Boyer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion to go into closed session carries 5-0 in the affirmative. Any further comments from Council President?
No, sir.
Council, we're going to move to item 19, which is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Jones, second by Councilmember Schnagus. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Motion to adjourn the November 4th council meeting is approved 5-0 in the affirmative. The time is now 9:27. Thank you very much, everybody. Be safe, and we'll see you back here at the next council meeting. Good night.